We're in Pure Worship book. I'll be reading from the book, and David will be reading on the screen. We're on page 194. 194 and 195 on the top have a
box.
A bar or a box, yeah, right across. It's entitled Jehovah warns of the coming great battle, and they divide it into 3 sections. The days of ancient Israel, 1st century CE, and modern times, but we're only going to deal with the days of ancient Israel today. So the opening paragraph says, the Bible contains numerous prophecies that warn of a climactic battle in which Jehovah will wipe out all who oppose him and his people. Listed here are just some of those prophecies. Notice the similarities of these warnings and note that Jehovah has ensured that all mankind has the opportunity to hear them and to act. And then below that, they mention 3, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Jeremiah. Ezekiel, they reference Ezekiel 38. They say verses 18 to 23, and they give you just a little quote. I will call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the sovereign Lord Jehovah. The Daniel quote is Daniel 2:44, and the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will crush and put an end to all these kingdoms. Use that one all the time in field service.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't know the context. Jeremiah, they reference Jeremiah 25:31 to 33 and give you a partial quote. Jehovah will personally pass judgment on all humans, and he will put the wicked to the sword.
Well, the introductory paragraph makes a point that we can agree with. The Bible contains numerous prophecies that warn of a climactic battle. I wouldn't even say numerous. I would say they're all over the place, from the first prophecies of the Bible right through to the book of Revelation, where we finally read the word Armageddon, literally. And it's a place, not a situation, not a world situation, but a place. We've talked about that before. But all the prophets pretty much bear witness to this day of judgment.
The day of the Lord. Yeah, that's right.
In stereo. So 17 writing prophets, 17, and most of them are referencing this day of the Lord. So you're right, numerous prophecies, but what you've missed completely is who they were written to.
Yeah.
Even the book of Revelation is written by a Jew. That's what people call it, the most Jewish book in the New Testament, for good reason.
Yeah.
It's written by a Jew, but what's different about the Old Testament is written by Jews, to Jews, about Jews.
Yeah.
It's for Israel.
Yeah.
And when you take these out of context, you're going to misunderstand everything that's said by well, let's just take these 3 examples. We've already made the case about Ezekiel, haven't we? Ezekiel and Jeremiah, we looked at just recently. That when you look at these 2 chapters they've cited, Gog of Magog, Ezekiel 38, Jeremiah 25, look at the 2 chapters, read them from the start, and you'll see what the context is always Israel's future.
Yeah.
And Daniel, that's the one that they haven't spent a lot of time on here, but like you said, this verse is everywhere in their publications and in your little preachings at the door, right?
Yeah.
But what's the context in Daniel? What's the climax when this is unpacked for us? That is, Daniel 2:44 is unpacked at the end of the book. By the end of the book, we know exactly what it's talking about because it's very precise. What are these kingdoms that will be destroyed? And what's the survivor? What's the surviving kingdom going to be like? And here it is, because it's in the end of Daniel chapter 11. So we'll read from verse 40 onwards in Daniel 11, and then a little bit of 12. And I think the game is over by the time you've read this through as to what it's talking about, because it's very precise. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, that is, the king of the north, but the king of the north shall rush upon him like a whirlwind, with chariots and horsemen, and with many ships, and he shall come into countries, and shall overflow and pass through. He shall come into the glorious land. and tens of thousands shall fall, but these shall be delivered out of his hand, Edom and Moab and the main part of the Ammonites. But by the way, that's the land we would today call Jordan. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. He shall become ruler of the treasures of gold and of silver and of all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Cushites shall follow in his train. So it looks like the king of the north is dominating the entire Middle East at this point, at least the part around Israel to the east of it and to the southwest of it. And then it says, but news from the east and the north shall alarm him. So this looks like a Middle Eastern war or even a world war going on at this point. And he shall go out with great fury to destroy and devote many to destruction. Reminds you of the beast descriptions in Revelation 13, right? And he shall pitch his palatial tents between the sea and the glorious holy mountain. So now we've heard about a glorious land and a glorious holy mountain. Is there any other place this could be?
Yeah. In the New World Translation that I've got here, it says the land of decoration, the holy mountain of decoration.
Came over?
Yeah. So you know where it's talking about. It's very specific too. I think for Cushites they have Ethiopians. So you know it's talking very specifically about specific locations and specific peoples.
And what's going to happen to this king of the north and where? So the very last line says, yet he shall come to his end with none to help him. And then what? So there's no chapter break here. So let's just read the first 4 verses of Daniel 12.
So we'll read it from the New World Silver Sword. During that time, Michael will stand up, the great prince who is standing in behalf of your people. And there will occur a time of distress such as has not occurred since there came to be a nation until that time. And during that time your people will escape, everyone who is found written down in the book. And many of those asleep in the dust of the earth will wake up, some to everlasting life, and others to reproach and to everlasting contempt. And those having insight will shine as brightly as the expanse of heaven, and those bringing the many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. As for you, Daniel, keep the word secret and seal up the book until the time of the end. Many will rove about, and the true knowledge will become abundant.
Beautiful. So who's going to make the knowledge abundant in those days? Well, if you read the whole chapter 11 plus 12, you come to the conclusion it's Israelites who are going to be preaching the kingdom at the end.
Yeah.
They're the ones with the insight. You're not.
Yeah.
So this is not about you, and it's not written to you. It's certainly not for you. This is a message to Israel. And who is Michael, by the way? He's not Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because you have to remember this book is written to Daniel, an Israelite, and it says, your people, to Daniel. So who are Daniel's people but fellow Israelites?
That's right. Michael, if you just read chapter 10, and we've done videos on this, so you just type in Michael on our channel and you'll find them. Michael is introduced in the Bible in chapter 10 of Daniel. And it says he's one of the foremost princes. And then it says at the end of the chapter 10 that he is your prince. So again, the game is over. Michael has something specific to do with the destiny of Israel. And notice he's introduced here just before reference to the resurrection. And he's also introduced in context of the Great Tribulation. This is the first explicit prediction after Jeremiah 30 of the Great Tribulation. Where is the Great Tribulation centered? And who's doing the championing of Israel at this point? Michael. But of course elsewhere in the prophets we know that Yahweh himself takes interest in this. And then you have to ask yourself the question, if Michael is the Prince of Israel, who is Jesus the Messiah? How does he fit in here? And of course Zechariah answers, well, when Yahweh's foot stands on the Mount of Olives, there's the Lord.
I think verse 2 is an important one for us as ex-witnesses, and I would say for witnesses to think about. Because in verse 2, it's when it talks about the resurrection, it doesn't say that there's going to be a resurrection for the believers, they're all going to live happily in paradise earth, and for the ones who didn't accept it, they're given this second chance to prove themselves. No, it says they will wake up, some to everlasting life, and others to reproach, and to everlasting contempt. So it sounds the same as John's. When John talks about the resurrection, he says that as well. It's not a second chance. It's a judgment day.
Yeah.
It's the day that you are going to have to account for how you lived.
Yeah. So to summarize what we've said so far in this short compass, even this information or misinformation on page 194
yes,
is wrong in its assertions about the nature of the Great Tribulation, the Battle of Armageddon. Now we find out the person of Michael, and now the resurrection. They're wrong about all those things, and they're all truths that are essential, really, to understanding the nature of God's kingdom promises.
Yeah. You referenced Revelation before, and it struck me that Revelation starts with a letter to people in that same locale. It's talking about people in the Middle East, congregations, the Jewish congregations. They're getting that information.
They were congregations started by Jews, yes. And John is their pastor now. He's what you might call in later generations the bishop of that entire region, Ephesus, Smyrna included, right? All 7 churches. But the point is
just
that
knowing what they would have been thinking about all these things too.
But the Jewish element in the New Testament, as Austin Farrer says in his books on Revelation, the Jewish element is often overlooked in Revelation. And without Daniel and Jeremiah and Isaiah and Zechariah, you can't understand the book of Revelation. And they're all, of course, written to Jews too.
Yeah.
And so this doctrine, the doctrine of the restoration of Israel, becomes the key to Bible interpretation. And for many people in the church, as well as Jehovah's Witnesses, this is a lost key.
Yeah.
What's our link?
We're linking to a video called, I don't know if this is the exact title, but Watchtower House of Cards Collapse.
Oh, yeah.
Collapses.
That was in our Daniel series, right the first year of the channel, and we went through the book of Daniel rather methodically.
Yeah.
Both of us, and this was the House of Cards climax, which was this passage we just read. The whole thing falls apart. Your whole kingdom scenario, and a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
See you next time.